You ever notice how sometimes, before a woman actually cheats, something just feels off? It's not something she says directly. It's the little shifts, the subtle changes in energy, the way she starts acting differently. And you can't quite put your finger on it. You tell yourself you're overthinking, that maybe you're being insecure. But deep down, your gut knows something's wrong. The truth is, women rarely cheat out of nowhere. There are always signs, quiet, psychological signals she gives off before crossing that line. And most men completely miss them. Not because they're blind, but because they want to believe everything's fine. See, when a woman starts to emotionally disconnect, it rarely begins with her body. It starts in her mind. She begins to withdraw. Not in dramatic ways, but in those subtle shifts that only someone truly paying attention would notice. Maybe she's suddenly on her phone a lot more, but when you ask who she's texting, she gives you a vague, harmless answer like, "Oh, just a friend." Or she laughs at a message but turns the screen slightly away from you. You try not to make it a big deal, but that small gesture, that's a seed of emotional distance being planted. Another sign most men miss is the change in her attitude toward you. It's not always open conflict. Sometimes it's indifference. She stops arguing, stops caring to explain herself, stops reacting emotionally to things she used to be passionate about. And that's the dangerous kind of silence, the one that doesn't come from peace, but from detachment. Because when a woman no longer feels emotionally invested, she doesn't fight for connection. She quietly drifts. She might still smile, still say, "love you," still play the role, but her eyes tell a different story. You'll notice her seeking validation outside the relationship, even if it's subtle. Suddenly, she's putting extra effort into her appearance, not for you, but for herself. She's more active on social media, posting selfies that she never used to post, responding to comments that boost her ego. And when you ask about it, she'll say, "I'm just feeling myself lately." But in reality, she's unconsciously, or maybe consciously, opening doors for new attention. Because when a woman's emotional needs aren't being met, she starts to crave recognition from others, even if she doesn't realize where that road leads. What's tricky is that these changes can easily be dismissed as normal. Relationships evolve, people grow, and women do deserve to feel good about themselves, absolutely. But the intention behind the change is what matters. When she's growing with you, you feel included in that energy. When she's growing away from you, you feel left out, like she's living a separate life you're no longer invited to. That's the invisible gap that forms before betrayal ever happens. And here's where most men fail. They sense something's off, but instead of addressing it calmly, they either withdraw completely or become overly possessive. Both reactions push her further away. Because once she emotionally checks out, logic won't pull her back. Only emotional connection can. But by the time most men notice the signs, she's already halfway gone. Not physically, but emotionally. And once that emotional bridge breaks, cheating becomes just a symptom of something much deeper that's already died inside her. What you need to understand is that these signs are not just bad behavior. They're signals of emotional disconnection. And if you can read them early, you can protect yourself from betrayal, heartbreak, and manipulation. But it all starts with awareness, seeing what most men ignore. You know, what makes these situations so complicated is that women rarely cheat just because of lust or a sudden impulse. It's emotional erosion that builds up slowly over time. A woman doesn't wake up one morning and decide to betray you. It's a progression of unmet emotions, suppressed resentment, and curiosity about what she might be missing. That's why the next set of signs often hides behind normal, everyday behaviors that only seem innocent, until you look deeper. One of the biggest ones? Emotional comparison. You'll start to notice her bringing up another man's name more often. Maybe it's someone from work, a friend, or even an ex she claims to be cool with. She might casually mention his jokes, his ambition, or how he understands things differently. It doesn't sound like much at first, but what she's really doing is measuring him against you in her mind. She's subconsciously comparing emotional fulfillment. That's a red flag most men ignore because they think, she's just talking. But when a woman talks about another man with emotion in her voice, that warmth, that sparkle, she's already opening an emotional door. Then comes the shift in availability. She used to respond to your text quickly. She used to call just to check in. Now she's busy. Always tired, always in the middle of something. You sense her pulling away, but she keeps giving just enough attention to make you doubt yourself. That's psychological distance, and it's intentional or at least subconsciously protective. When women start planning emotional exits, they reduce connection in small doses so that, when they finally leave or cheat, it doesn't feel as heavy for them. It's her way of preparing herself emotionally to detach. You might also see her become more defensive. Ask her a simple question like, "Where were you?" Or, "Who were you with?" And suddenly, it turns into an argument. She'll accuse you of not trusting her, twist the narrative, and make you feel guilty for even asking. That defensiveness is often projection. It's her trying to protect something, a secret, an emotion, or a connection she doesn't want to reveal. It's not about the question. It's about the threat that the truth might expose. Another sign, and this one cuts deep, is when she stops sharing her emotions with you. You used to be her person, the one she vented to about everything, her bad day, her worries, her dreams. But now, you find out things secondhand. She tells her friends, she posts cryptic quotes online, she opens up to others but not to you. That's not random, it's a shift in intimacy. She's moving her emotional center elsewhere, and once that happens, her loyalty begins to follow. Emotional intimacy is the foundation of faithfulness. When that's gone, physical cheating is just a matter of opportunity. And here's the part that stings. She might still act affectionate. She might hug you, kiss you, or say, "I love you." But those gestures feel hollow. Like the warmth is missing. That's because she's going through the motions to avoid suspicion or guilt. It's not real connection anymore. It's maintenance. And when affection becomes mechanical, that's a sure sign her heart is drifting elsewhere. You see, men often mistake physical closeness for emotional safety. But what really keeps a woman loyal isn't her body. It's her emotional bond to you. Once another man starts fulfilling that emotional role, listening, understanding, exciting her curiosity, your relationship starts bleeding from the inside out. Most guys don't catch it until it's too late because these signs don't come with warnings. They come wrapped in routine, in smiles, in small changes, in, "It's nothing, don't worry." But if you can recognize these early, you can either address the cracks or prepare yourself for the truth, because denial is always more painful than reality. There's a moment, and if you've ever been through this, you know exactly what it feels like, when you realize she's no longer really there. Her body might still be next to you, her words might sound the same, but something in her energy has shifted. That invisible connection, that warmth you used to feel when she looked at you, it's gone. And you can't explain it logically, it's just missing. That's the stage most men overlook because they keep hoping it's just a phase. But by the time her presence starts feeling empty, she's already emotionally checked out, and likely entertaining thoughts or attention elsewhere. Here's a sign that often hides in plain sight. New boundaries that never existed before. Suddenly, she becomes more private. Her phone that used to lie face up on the table is now always flipped over. She takes it with her to the bathroom. She starts using passwords she never used before or laughs nervously when a notification pops up. And when you ask about it, she says, "I just value my privacy." Privacy is fine, secrecy isn't. And the line between the two is defined by intent. When a woman starts guarding her phone like a secret diary, it's not privacy anymore. It's distance with a purpose. You might also notice her changing how she communicates. She starts using shorter responses. Her good morning texts disappear. The calls become less frequent, and when you do talk, it feels like you're talking at her, not with her. There's no emotional rhythm, no playfulness. The conversation becomes transactional, about chores, schedules, or random topics that avoid anything deep. This emotional dullness is how she detaches safely, without confrontation. It's her mind's way of slowly turning the emotional volume down. Then there's the sudden irritability. The little things about you that never bothered her before suddenly start annoying her. The way you laugh, the things you say, even how you breathe sometimes. She'll pick small fights not because she hates you, but because emotional detachment often creates guilt. And guilt needs justification. So she subconsciously tries to create reasons to feel less bad about what she's doing or planning to do. Every argument, every cold shoulder, every exaggerated complaint. It's her way of emotionally rewriting the story so she can see herself as the victim instead of the betrayer. One of the most painful signs is when she stops being curious about your life. She doesn't ask how your day was, doesn't notice when something's wrong, doesn't care if you come home late. That indifference is worse than anger because anger still shows emotional investment. Indifference means she's emotionally disconnected, and once that happens, she's already living in her own world. You're still there physically, but she's mentally somewhere else, maybe with someone else. And when she does start talking about needing space or wanting to find herself, pay attention to the timing. That phrase often appears after she's already emotionally connected to someone new. The space she wants isn't about self-reflection. It's about exploring new emotions without guilt. She just needs you to make it easy for her to leave cleanly. But here's the truth most men miss. When a woman reaches that level of disconnection, chasing her won't bring her back. You can't negotiate attraction. You can't convince loyalty. You can't make someone stay by proving your worth, because the moment you try, you give her all the power. The only thing that works is strength, emotional strength, the willingness to walk away from what's slipping away. Because sometimes, The only way to make a woman realize your value is to remove your presence. This is the moment where men either break or rise, and what happens next determines everything, whether she truly loses you or wakes up to what she's losing. When you finally stop chasing, that's when the dynamic shifts. Not in a game-playing way, but in energy. Because a woman feels it when your attention pulls back. When you no longer check her stories, when you stop asking where she's been, when you no longer wait for her texts. She feels that silence like a mirror reflecting her own choices. And that's when guilt, curiosity, or realization begins to stir inside her. It's human nature. People only start valuing peace once the noise is gone. See, a woman who is emotionally preparing to cheat often expects you to break down, to beg, to fight for her. She wants to feel desired even as she pulls away. That's part of the emotional safety net she builds for herself. But when you don't react, when you stand calm and composed, something unexpected happens. She starts to question her narrative. Wait, why isn't he chasing me? Did I lose something real? That inner conflict is powerful because deep down, women crave emotional certainty from a strong, centered man, not chaos from one who's lost control. But let's back up for a second and look at why this even happens. The psychology behind female infidelity is complex. It's rarely about just sex. For many women, cheating is an emotional escape. It's a way to feel seen, desired, or alive again after feeling emotionally invisible. Sometimes she's not looking for another man, she's looking for herself. But the tragedy is that instead of communicating, instead of facing the discomfort inside the relationship, she chooses to seek validation outside of it. And that's the kind of betrayal that leaves deep scars, because it's not about what she did, it's about who she became in the process. That's why recognizing these signs early isn't just about protecting yourself, it's about understanding emotional patterns. A woman starts to cheat long before she touches another man. It begins when she starts hiding emotions, when she stops being transparent, when she begins rewriting the story of your relationship in her mind. He doesn't understand me anymore. We've grown apart. It's not like it used to be. These self-justifying thoughts are her way of creating moral distance, a psychological buffer that allows her to betray you while convincing herself she's the victim. And here's the bitter truth. Once she crosses that line, even emotionally, something changes forever. You can forgive, you can rebuild, but you'll never look at her the same way again. Because betrayal doesn't just destroy trust, it alters the way you see her. It takes away the innocence of what you once had. And as a man, that loss of emotional safety cuts deeper than the act itself. But this is where your strength matters. Not in revenge, not in proving anything, but in maintaining your self-respect. If you sense these signs, don't confront her from anger. Confront her from clarity. Because when you approach with calm truth, her reaction will tell you everything. A woman who's innocent will lean in and reassure you. A woman who's guilty will deflect, blame, and twist. Truth doesn't fear questions. Only lies do. So remember this. You don't have to catch her cheating to know something's wrong. Her behavior, her energy, her inconsistency, those are the real confessions. And once you see them clearly, the question isn't, is she cheating? The question becomes, am I willing to stay blind to what I already know? Because awareness is power. And once you truly see the pattern, you'll never be fooled by it again. There comes a point where you stop analyzing her every move and start listening to the one thing that never lies, your gut. Because deep down, you always know. You feel it in her touch, in her silence, in the way her eyes no longer hold the same warmth when she looks at you. That's not paranoia, that's intuition. And your intuition, as a man, is one of your greatest weapons, if you trust it. Most men silence it because they don't want to face the truth. They'd rather live in the comfort of illusion than in the pain of clarity. But the truth, as painful as it is, will always set you free faster than denial ever will. When a woman starts showing these signs, emotional distance, secrecy, irritability, loss of curiosity, she's not just losing interest in you, she's losing touch with herself. Cheating isn't just betrayal. It's disconnection from one's own integrity. A woman who respects herself doesn't need to step outside the relationship to feel alive. She communicates. She works through it. She chooses honesty over excitement. But a woman who cheats has already chosen emotional weakness over courage. And the sooner you recognize that, the sooner you stop taking it personally. See, it's not your job to fix a woman who's already decided to disrespect you. It's your job to see clearly, to protect your peace, your energy, and your dignity. You can love deeply without tolerating betrayal. You can forgive without staying. You can have empathy without sacrificing your self-respect. That's what real masculine strength looks like. Not anger, not bitterness, but calm detachment from what no longer values you. Because the truth is, the moment you allow disrespect once, you teach her how to treat you twice. A woman will test your boundaries to see what you'll tolerate, And every time you let something slide, you lose a piece of your self-worth. But when you stand firm, when you make it clear that dishonesty, secrecy, and emotional manipulation are deal breakers, you set a standard that demands respect. Not just from her, but from yourself. And here's the paradox. The more you value yourself, the more women respect you. The stronger your boundaries, the safer they feel around you. It's not arrogance, it's certainty. Because a man with standards isn't controlling, he's anchored. He knows what he stands for and what he won't stand through. That's what makes him magnetic. That's what makes him unforgettable. So if you ever sense she's slipping away, don't chase her shadow. Let her go. Because the woman who's meant for you will never make you question your worth, your peace, or your place in her life. She'll protect your trust like it's her own reflection. And when you find that kind of loyalty, you'll realize that losing someone who was willing to cheat wasn't a loss at all. It was protection. The lesson is simple but powerful. Never ignore the signs. Never beg for loyalty. And never, ever sacrifice your self-respect for temporary love. You deserve peace, honesty, and a connection that doesn't make you question your value. Because once you master emotional awareness and self-respect, no manipulation, no betrayal, and no disloyal woman will ever have power over you again. That's the mindset of a man who understands female psychology, and more importantly, himself.